I'm gonna go ahead and get started. Today is just a little bit different. Today we don't have a lecture, but what we will do is we'll go over some of the key, I guess, prompts, and then we'll go over those, and from there we're gonna go ahead and we'll take the prep practice assessment. Cool. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna share my screen and we'll go ahead and we'll get started. Okay. Share screen. Cool. Can everybody see my screen well? You can give, yeah, okay, cool, awesome. Cool, so the first question that we're gonna go over is this yell one. Whenever we are going through a problem, what I like to do is go with a three-step approach. The three-step approach being make sure to read and you understand the issue at hand. Number two, you come up with the plan, and number three, you implement the plan. Cool. So step one, write a method, yell words that takes in an array of words and returns a new array where every word from the original array has an exclamation point. So if I take a look here, I'm just gonna go through one example. And so if you can see here, we are given an input array called words. And inside this input array, there are two elements. And in each element, essentially what we want to do is we want to add an exclamation point at the end. And that's what the output of this method is. Give me a second. I'm gonna go ahead and Jared, I'm gonna mute you. I hear some feedback. Or let's see. It doesn't seem like I can mute you. Thank you. Cool. Cool. So step two, let's come up with a plan. Oftentimes, the question itself will let you know what it wants. So in this case, it says returns a new array. So what that tells me is I need to initialize a new result array. All right. Cool. And additionally, it says where every word from the original array has an exclamation point. So what that tells me is where every word that tells me that we need to do some sort of a loop, right? So I'm going to say loop through input array. And what are we going to do inside our loop, right? So what we're going to do inside our loop is at each element, we're going to essentially concatenate an exclamation point to the end of the word, and then push that into the result array. Right. So we're gonna concatenate an exclamation point to end of current element. Then we'll take that result and push into the result array. And sorry, right here on line 2, I forgot to state that it's a new result array. Cool. And so once the loop is done, essentially all I have to do is return the result array. Cool. That plan sounds good. I'm going to go ahead and now go on to step 3. Step 3 is you implement the plan. So from here, all I have to do is, now that I have the plan, if your plan was well thought out, you'll literally only need to follow the steps, right? So in this case, I need to initialize a new result array. And how do you do that? All you have to do is like yelled array, and that's how you initialize an empty array. Then we're going to loop through the input array. Cool. And we have only learned while loops so far. So we'll use that convention. We'll do I equals 0. Yeah. And we'll do while I is less than the input array dot length. Right. And we'll end, and I always like to add my end and my increment right off the bat so I don't forget. Cool. So now that I'm looping through the input array, I have to concatenate an exclamation point to the end of the current element. So let's do a current element. Current Ellie will equal words at I, right? So I will start off at 0. So words at 0 would be hello. Words at 1 will be world. Then what we'll do is we'll take the current Ellie and we'll add that. And we'll add the exclamation point to it. And we'll take that result and we will push it into the yelled array. Cool. So we'll take that result and we'll push it into the result array, and then we'll have to return the result array at the end. Cool. Cool. So let's go ahead and let's walk over this one time before I run the code to make sure that it looks good. So I will start at 0, I being the index. So while I 0 is less than, we'll go with this example here, which is words.length, which is 2, right? So what does this evaluate to? This is true. And because this is true, we will jump into the while loop. And so what is words of I? So words of I is words of 0, which will currently be hello. Let me use a better convention, use the double quotes. And so now that we have, now that we have hello, we will concatenate the exclamation point, and that comes out to be hello with an exclamation point. Then we take this and we shovel it into the result array right here. And so it will be like that, except in a string. And then we increment I. I is now 1. Is 1 less than 2? This is still true, so we jump into the while loop. What is words? Sorry, words at 1. Words at 1 is this world right here. And so it will be world plus the exclamation point. It will come out to world with an exclamation point. Then we take that result and we push it into here. And then we increment I. Now I is 2. Is 2 less than 2? This is false. Therefore, we skip this while loop and we return the result array. Let's go ahead and give that a run. Awesome. And if I go ahead and I give this a run, we have code is cool. Any questions there? What if I want to add only to the last index. Yeah, so if you wanted to add only to the last index, then all you would have to do, yeah, correct. You would use the -1 here. So it would be like, where's that -1? Or yeah, you probably wouldn't necessarily have to loop through. Um, all you would have to do is write something like return like words at -1, right? And that will I will show you right here. So if I do like return words at -1, and I can go ahead and I delete this, it will return the last word here, world and cool. Any other questions? Does that make sense? Are there for loops in Ruby? In Ruby, there are each loops, which are basically for loops. I don't think it's the correct convention to write for loops in Ruby. There could be, but I've never used for loops in Ruby. There's definitely for loops in JavaScript. Is that the reason that you're asking? Because you're coming from a JavaScript background? No, so you'll learn it next week. But it will essentially be words.each. Nice. Yeah, so it would be like words.each. Yeah, and then it'd be like do every word. Yeah, so you'll learn that next week. I think enumerables are much more fun to use. I guess some people like to use while loops, but for loops or each loops, they're all the same. It's just another way to write them. Yep, no problem. Cool. The second question that they want us to go over is the element times the index. So I'm going to go ahead and do this. So with the three-step approach again, step one, read and understand the question at hand. Number two, come up with the plan. Number three, implement the plan, right? So number one, step one, write a method, element times index, that takes in an array of numbers and returns a new array containing every number of the original array multiplied with its index. Cool. So if I look at the example, I have an input array, an input array called numbers, which holds a list of numbers. And every number, if we look at the result, is just multiplied times its index. That's exactly what it's called, right? So for instance, at index 0, we have 4. So 4 times index 0 is 0. Then at index 1, 7 times index 1 will be 7. At index 2, 6 times index 2 will be 12. And at index 3, 5 times index 3 will be 15. Awesome. I think I understand the question. Step two, let's come up with a plan, right? And as mentioned, a lot of the times you will know what to do if you're reading the prompt, right? So in this case, it tells us to return a new array. So that tells me that I need to initialize a new result array. Step two, returns a new array containing every number, right? So that tells me I need to loop. So loop through input array. And so what are we going to do inside the loop, right? What we're going to need to do is multiply the current element with its index, right? So multiply current number with its index, and then we'll take result and push, or I guess shovel, into result array. And then what we'll want to do is we'll want to return result array. Awesome. Initialize a new array. We'll loop through the array. We'll multiply the number times its index. And then we'll take that and we'll take the result and push it into the result array, and then we'll return the array. Awesome. That sounds like a plan. So how do we initialize a result array? We just did that. So let's call this products, I guess. Products array. Then right here it says loop through an the input array. Cool. So I'm going to use a while loop. So while the index, we start at 0, while I is less than the number dot length. And I'm only going to run through this first example. And then I like to put my end and my increment right off the bat so I don't forget. Cool. Multiply current number times its index. So that means that tells me that I'll have a current number, which will equal to numbers at I. I'm going to go ahead and do this real quick. Cool. And then so we'll multiply. So current num times its index. We take that result and we shovel it into the prods array. Cool. And then we return the result array. Return prods array. Awesome. Let's walk through this one time to make sure it's good. This starts off at an empty array. I will begin at 0. So is 0 less than numbers? In this case, the length is 4. All right. This will be true. Current number is numbers of 0, which is numbers at 0 would be 4. Then we'll take the current number times its index, the current index, right? And that will give us 0. We take the 0 and we'll push it into the products array. Then we increment I. I is now 1. Is 1 less than 4? This is true. Since this is true, we jump into this while loop. What is numbers of I, which gives us the current number? Numbers of I, numbers of 1 is 7. So we have 7 here. Then the current number, since this is 7, and we know the index, the current index is 1. Well, 7 times 1 will equal to 7. We take the 7 and we shovel it into this product array. And then we increment I. I is now 2. Is 2 less than 4? This is true. Numbers at index 2 is 6, which is right here. So 6 times index 2 will give us 12. We take that 12 and we shovel it into this products array. And we increment I. I is now 3. Is 3 less than 4? This still holds true. So we jump into the while loop. Numbers at index 3 will give us 5. So we have our current number, which is 5 times its current index, which is 3. That will give us 15. we take that result and we push it into this products array. And then we increment I. I is now 4. 4 less than 4. This is false. Therefore, we don't jump into the while loop and we return what we currently have, which is this. Let's give it a shot. Cool. 0, 7, 12, and 15. And if I run this one, that'll be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Any questions there? Awesome. We'll move on to the next one. Odd range. Cool. So odd range. Let's go ahead and do the 3-step approach again. Step 1, again, read and understand the prompt. Write a method, odd range, that takes in a minimum and a maximum. Write a method, odd range, that takes in 2 numbers, minimum and maximum. The method should return an array containing all odd numbers from min to max. Cool. Cool. So like I said, the prompt will tell us what they want, right? So it says that we should return an array. So step 2, we come up with a plan. All right, so let's initialize a result array. Cool. And so it should contain all odd numbers. So contain all is kind of like contain every, or every something, every number, which tells us that we need to loop through. What are we looping through, right? From minimum to maximum, loop through from min to max. And so what are we going to do inside the loop? Well, we want to grab all the odd numbers inside that range, right? All the odd numbers between minimum and maximum inclusive. I missed that. So let's make sure we have that there. Cool. From here, what do we need to do inside the loop? The loop is we need to check if current number is odd, and then if odd, push into result array. And then after the loop is done, we could go ahead and we could return result array. Realize that I did not go over the example, so that is my mistake. I went straight to step number 2. My apologies. So let's go back to step 1. So if you can see here, we have a minimum and a maximum of 18. And there's all these odd numbers in between, 11, 13, 15, and 17. Notice that 12, 14, and 16 are not there. Okay, cool. And then this one, 3, minimum is 3, maximum 7. As you can see, the result is 3, 5, and 7. 7 being inclusive. That's what it tells us there, inclusive. Cool. So now that I understand the problem, I have the plan. Let's go into the implementation. My apologies. Cool. So the plan looks good. If I can spell right. Initialize. So how do we initialize a result array? Let's call this odds array. And we'll initialize it like so. Then we can do our while loop pattern. In this case, let's call the variable num. And normally what we would do is like I equals 0. Here, let's just do this. Normally it would be like something like I equals 0 while I is less than something dot length, right? Then we have the end, and then we have the I plus equals 1, right? But in this case, we only want to loop through minimum and maximum, right? And so this I right here is actually what it is how we start. And so how we start actually is at the min, right? And then where we want to end is at the max. And so it says max inclusive. So that tells me less than or equal to max. I saw a message, give me a second. Did I write something not max somewhere? Oh, for sure, for sure. Cool. So in this case, I actually want to use a different variable besides I in this case. I want to call this a number so that it's a little bit more clear what we're doing. Since this is not an index, this is actually a number. Also keep in mind that you can change this to whatever you want. It can be like a banana. The only thing is like this would have to be a banana too, right? And then you're just incrementing the banana, right? Which does not make sense, but you can do that. But I'm gonna call these nums. Cool. So now that we have looped through from minimum to maximum, inclusive being this equal sign here, what am I going to do inside? We're going to check if the number is odd, right? And we already know how to check if the number is odd, right? So if the num mod 2 does not equal 0, right? So if num mod 2 is not equal to 0, meaning the current number is not evenly divisible by 2, which means it is odd, because if it's evenly divisible by 2, it means that it's even. Then we can take that num and we will shovel it into the odds array. I call that odds R. Cool. If it is odd, we push it into the array. So if it is odd, we'll push it into the array, and then we can return the result array, which I called odds array. Cool. So let's walk over this one time. Let's do this 3 and 7 example. Excuse me. So we start off with an empty array. Num is for now, we start at the minimum. The minimum is 3. So we're going to say is 3 less than or equal to 7. This holds true. Therefore, we jump into the while loop. Then we're going to check if num, which is currently 3, mod 2, modulus 2. And just a reminder, the modulus operator, it gives us the remainder of this result right here. So it's like 3 divided by 2, but what is the remainder? The remainder would be 1. Right, like so that if I had a 4 right here, 4 divided by 2, the remainder is 0, right? So anyways, the current number is 3 mod 2, not 0. Well, 3 mod 2 evaluates to a remainder of 1 is 1 not 0. That is true, right? And because this is true, we will take 3 and we will shovel it into this odds array. And then we will increment a number. Number is now 4. Is 4 less than or equal to 7? This is true. Then we do is 4 mod 2 not equal to 0. Well, 4 mod 2 gives me a remainder of 0. So 0, not 0. This is false. Therefore, we don't jump into the if loop, but we run to line 17, which will increment num. Num is now 5. Is 5 less than or equal to 7? This holds true. We jump into the while loop. So we check if num, which is 5, mod 2, not equal to 1. Well, 5 mod 2 gives us 1, right? So it's 1 not equal to 0. This is true. And because this holds true, we jump into the while loop, if loop. And we take the number, which is 5, and we shovel it into the odds array. Then we jump to line 17, and we increment num to 6. Is 6 less than 7? This holds true. We jump into the while loop. We're going to check if num mod 2 is not 0. Well, num mod 2, 6 mod 2 equals 0, because it gives us a remainder of 0. Is 0 not equal to 0? This is false. Therefore, we don't jump into the if loop and if conditional. I keep saying if loop. Then we go straight to line 17 and we increment num, which is now 7. Is 7 less than or equal to 7? This is true. So we check if 7 is evenly divisible by 2. This gives us a remainder of 1. So 1 not equal to 0. This is true. And so we take 7 and we shovel it into the odds array. And then we increment num. Num is now 8. Is 8 less than or equal to 7? This is false. So we skip this while loop and we return the odds array. Let's give it a run. Nice. And nice. 11, 13, 15, 17, 3, 5, 7. Cool. Any questions there? Awesome. Awesome. Let's do FizzBuzz. Cool. All right, FizzBuzz is one that used to confuse me a lot when I first began. And it can still be confusing, but as long as you break it down, you'll get a clear picture of what the method does. Cool. I'm gonna get water really quick. Give me 1 second. Okay. So FizzBuzz, step 1. Let's and I promise I'll do it right this time. We'll do the 3-step approach correctly. Write a method, FizzBuzz, that takes in a number max and returns an array containing all numbers greater than 0 and less than max that are divisible by either 4 or by 6, but not both. Cool. So if you take a look here, if we look at FizzBuzz 20, we can see all the numbers that are divisible by 6, divisible by 4, which are 4, 8, 16, but not 20, right? And then numbers divisible by 6, 6, 18. We're missing 12, right? So let me draw it out. And so the result doesn't want that 12 because that 12 is divisible by both 4 and 6. So for instance, if I did the numbers that are divisible by 4, this would be 4, 8, 12, 16, but we're doing not including 20, okay? And then in here, numbers that are divisible by 6 will be 6, 12, and 18. And the numbers that are the result that we want is 4, 6, 8, 16, and 18. Now, what you notice here is the only number that is not in this result when you combine these two is this number 12 here, right? So we have the 4, the 6, the 8, no 12, we have the 16, and we have the 18. Cool. Awesome. So I think I understand the problem. Let's come up with the plan. As always, the prompt will give you clues. And so it tells us to return an array. So the plan is to initialize a result array. And what are we going to do? Containing all numbers that tells us that we're going to loop. We're going to loop through. What are we going to loop through? We're going to loop all numbers greater than 0 but less than max. Okay, loop through from 1, because 1 is greater than 0, to less than max. Or you could also say like loop up to max beginning at 1. Same thing. So what are we going to do inside the loop? We're going to check if numbers are divisible by either 4 or by 6. So check if the current number is divisible by 4 or by 6 or divisible by 6. Then we're going to check if so we're going to check if the current number is divisible by 4 or by 6, and also check if the current number is not divisible by 4 and not divisible by 6. If those are true, push current number into result array, then we're going to return result array. Does that make sense? So I'm literally writing down what they're telling us to do. Divisible by 6, by 4, or by 6, but not both. Not both being not divisible by 4 and not divisible by 6. Right. Cool. So let's implement the plan here. Okay, so let's initialize a result array. Let's call this fizzed array. Cool. And so let's loop through from 1 to less than max. So let's call this the current number. So number will start at 1 while the number is less than the max, meaning that it's always gonna, like in this case of 20, we're gonna stop at 19. And I always like to put my end keyword and my increment right off the bat. Cool. So what are we going to do inside here? We're going to check if the current number is divisible by 6 or by 4 or by 6. So we're going to check if a number is divisible by 4, or a number is divisible by 6, right? And if I run this really quick, let's see what happens. We're going to push that result into the phys array. Right, and then we're going to return the result. Notice that I'm skipping this right here, right? I'm skipping line 5 in our plan. And I have a reason for it. Just give me a second. We're going to return phys array. Run this code. Now notice I have 4, 6, 8, 12, and 16, right? And as we mentioned here, we don't want that 12. And so what do we do, right? We're missing that not both, right? So at least I know that this is working. So how do I code is not both, right? So what I can do is this, right? Take an and operator, not bang operator, both, right? So what is both? Both is num mod 4 double equals to 0, divisible by 4, and divisible by 6. So what this reads in English is if the number is divisible by 4, or number divisible by 6, and not number divisible by 4, and number divisible by 6, right? And that's exactly what's happening here. And not divisible by 4, and not divisible by 6. Cool. So I'm gonna, this code looks good to me, but I'm gonna go ahead and walk through the example. I'm not gonna go through all 20. That seems a little bit much, but what I'll do is maybe go up to 4, then I'll skip 5, and I'll do 6, I'll skip 7, and do 8. Or I'll do 4 and 6. 8, we'll do 12. And we could probably skip 16 and 18 because it's the exact same thing as 4 and 6. You'll see. Okay, so we'll start here. It starts off in an empty array. What is num? Num is 1. So we're asking if 1 is less than max, max being 20. This holds true. Cool. So I'm going to do this. And I'm going to copy and paste this like so. Okay. So let me see if this, yeah, okay. So num is currently 1, right? 1. So we're checking if 1 mod 4, 1 is divisible, evenly divisible by 4. This is false, right? And then so since the left side is false here, we go ahead and we check the right side of the OR operator. Is 1 evenly divisible by 6? This is false. So false or false evaluates to false, right? And we know that in an AND operator, the only time an AND operator expression is true is both sides needs to be true, and because one side is already false, we know it does not work, right? And so we go ahead and we don't jump into the if conditional, but we do increment I. 2 is 2 less than 20. This is true. And so what I'll do, we jump into the if block, and we'll put 2 here, right? Is 2 evenly divisible by 4? This is false. Is 2 evenly divisible by 6? This is false. The exact same situation happens as 1. We have false here. And as mentioned before, because one side of the AND operator is false, it means the whole expression is false. Therefore, we don't jump into this this if conditional here. Same thing happens at 3. As you can imagine, 3. This 3 mod 4 evaluates to false. 3 mod 6 evaluates to false. False or false evaluates to false. And because one side of the AND operator is false, the whole expression is false, right? Cool. Then it gets a little interesting. We go ahead and we increment I. I is num. Num is now 4. Is 4 less than 20? This is true. So let's go ahead and we'll do this. Change all these to 4. It's 4 evenly divisible by 4. This is true. Right? So because one side is true in an OR operator, the whole expression results to true. So then we go ahead and we check the other side, right? It's 4 mod 4, or it's 4 evenly divisible by 4. This is true. But it's 4 evenly divisible by 6. This is false, right? So we have an expression here, true and false. True and false evaluates to false. Not false evaluates to true. True and true evaluates to true. And because this evaluates to true, we take the num and we push it into here. Does that make sense? Do I need to walk through that again? Why 1 and not 0? What do you mean? So let me go back a little. But why was num initialized to 1? Oh, right here, because it tells us in the prompt, because we want all numbers greater than 0, less than max. Yeah. Okay, so I go back. Now that we have, now we have 4 in here. And then we had to increment num, sorry, increment num. I keep calling it increment num by 1. This is 5. Is 5 less than 20? This is true. So we change all these 3s to 5. And 5 is not evenly divisible by 4 or evenly divisible by 6. So you know this is false, right? And because one side of the AND operator is false, we are going to evaluate this whole line as false. And then we increment num. 6. So what happens at 6? Is 6 less than 20? This is true. So to just make sure that we jump into the while loop first. Then we hit this if conditional. I'm going to change all these 5s to 6. Is 6 evenly divisible by 4? This is false. Is 6 evenly divisible by 6? This is true. And we know with or operators, only one side needs to hold true for the evaluation, the expression to evaluate to true. Cool. So it's 4. So which means this is false, which means this is true. And so false and true evaluates to false, not false evaluates to true, true and true evaluates to true. So that's why we push 6 in, and then we increment num, which is now 7. As you can imagine, 7 is like 5, and then we hit 8. 8 is like 4. All right, we hit 8. 8 is exactly like 4. If you don't believe me, I can run it right here. Ooh, oh, I didn't like that. Okay. 8, 8, 8. Cool. Is 8 mod 4 true? That means this is true. Is 8 mod 6? This is false, which means this is false. True or false evaluates to true. True and false evaluates to false. Not false evaluates to true. True and true evaluates to true. That's why we push 8. So now we have that. And let's skip 9, 10, 11. As you guys can see, it gets pretty repetitive. But this is what's happening under the hood. Cool. And so let's get to 12. 12 is interesting, right? 12 mod 4, right, evaluates to true because 12 is evenly divisible by 4. Then 12 is also evenly divisible by 6. So we're going to say true. So true or true evaluates to true, right? True and true evaluates to true. Not true evaluates to false. True and false evaluates to false. And that's why we don't have 12 inside there. And as you can imagine, we loop through. We hit 16, which is like 4. Then we hit 18, which is like 6. And then we eventually increment to 20. Then we go as 20 less than 20. This is false, right? And then we return the array, the result array. So if I run this, it should give us 4, 6, 8, 16, and 18. Any questions there? So the key point to this question is that you are able to read the prompt and break it down into little pieces. And understanding and or operators as well as the bang operator. Cool. So if we don't have any questions, I'm going to stop sharing. And the second part of today is we are going to have a practice assessment. And and the practice assessment is very, it does not go against you in any way, shape, or form, good or bad. You will have 1 hour to take it. If you guys have not received the question yet, I'm gonna link it real quick in the chat if I can find it. Cool. So essentially what you do is you'll enter your email. Well, you'll press continue, enter your email and your first name. I don't know if I think you need a HackerRank account. So you sign up, and then because all of your assessments, a lot of assessments will be on here, so it's already good to have a HackerRank account. So if you notice on the left side, it says test duration. You have 60 minutes. There are 3 questions, meaning you have about 20 minutes a question. Some will take longer than others, but what you will see is kind of like our App Academy online. You'll see the prompt on the left side, and where you get to type on the right side. As mentioned, when you take this, it does not affect you in any way, shape, or form when you're applying to get into App Academy. This just gives you a better idea of where you are at right now regarding the week one material. That that way, when you take this, and also I suggest not taking it with notes, so just take it with your brain. That way you will know what you need to work on next to get better. Just so you know, I failed it my first time, so I was not able to get all three. Is it similar to the exam? Which exam are you referring to? I took App Academy a while ago, so I don't fully remember the process. I teach week one, or I teach Jumpstart. So, coding challenge. Yeah, it's very similar. Um, that's exactly what it is. It's a coding challenge. You will get another one on Monday as well. Um, but this is a good chance for you to see where you are at right now, and for you to know what to work on. There is week 1 day 5 material for you to go over on the weekend. So I highly suggest going over that, as well as if there's any parts uh, of the curriculum so far that you are having a tough time with, go over that as well. As week 2, it does pick up quite a bit. It does go a little bit faster, and the topics are more complex, not significantly more, but it does. You definitely want your foundations to be good. Um, Other than that, as soon as we get off, you go ahead and you will take the assessment. I will be online, so if you have any questions, just go ahead and ping me on Slack. In the meantime, before you guys start, do you guys have any questions for me regarding week 1 material and or week 2 material and or like my experience at App Academy? Uh, pass. You're saying pass the coding assessment to get into App Academy, or pass this? Okay. Um, I don't have that metric. I will say that there were 8 of us in my group of friends that went through App Academy. Well, we weren't friends before App Academy, but during App Academy, we became friends, and we um, studied together. And I think 6 of the 8 of us failed the first time. That's not a large. That's not a large sample size, because we basically all came from non-coding backgrounds, except for the 2 that did pass. They had a little bit of coding in either high school or college. I can't remember. And so those 2 passed. So I don't know your background, but I don't have any coding background, and I made it through, and I have a job now and working full time. So so it's possible. You just got to put in the work. But I don't have a good number for you. But I can just give you that small sample size. I will say that if you get through week 2 material fine and you understand that material as well as something on like code wars, you can get to QU6. So code wars and QU6, you are in very, very good shape. Code Wars is a website. It's kind of like a lead code or sort of. Yes, free. No. So QU6 is like the level within Code Wars. So like you start at 8, and as you get better, you go to 7. Then as you get better, you go to 6. It's like the difficulty level of a problem. Hey guys, accidentally started. No, that's fine. You could go ahead and you can do the test. Just know that it's 1 hour. Yep. Okay, that sounds good. But if you have any questions, I will be on Slack. Jared, do you have any other questions? Okay, that sounds good. Well, thank you for your time, and good luck with the coding assessment. Just know that you have us here as a resource for you to keep moving forward. No problem. Good luck. Bye.